Hey everyone, weather for Weather Geeks time here on Friday evening. Let's get right to it now. The snow today, I'll talk about that in just a second. A little bit of a bust here locally in some spots, but in other places we did okay. But I wanted to start actually this evening talking about what's going on up in the sky. The sky's cleared out nicely this evening, and Jupiter, our largest planet, is at its the point in its orbit in which it's closest to Earth, which means it's big and bright right now. So with a clear sky this evening and again tomorrow evening, head outside and check out Jupiter. It's in the constellation Virgo, which is in the southeastern sky. Now you'll want to wait a couple of hours after sunset to take a look at this. Let it get nice and dark and let Jupiter, get up high enough above the treetops that you can see it. You can actually see it then for the rest of the night. It'll be in the sky until morning. Also, our moon is in its waxing phase. It'll be full during the middle of next week. So Jupiter, this is a great opportunity to bust out a telescope if you have one. You can see several moons if you've got a good telescope. Not only can you see the planet, but a handful of Jupiter's moons. Again, southeast sky starting around mid-evening. All right, the snow this morning. Now, if you live in Mahoning County, Columbiana County, even parts of Mercer County, you didn't see much at all. Hardly any accumulation whatsoever. An inch or two locally in Trumbull County. The snow really just kind of ran into a brick wall as it tried to come south and east. That brick wall was basically kind of right through here. So they got a couple or a few inches over towards Kent. Hiram picked up a few inches. Oops, I lost my query there. Hiram 3.7, but check out south of Cleveland, Broadview Heights, if it will query for me here. There was 8, 9, 10 inches worth of snow in some parts of Cuyahoga County this morning. That's where the sweet spot was. All right, here locally. These will probably be the final numbers for the season in terms of snow at the airport. Now, most of us, of course, don't live near the airport, and it tends to be one of the snowier spots, and sometimes I think the measurements are a little off. But nonetheless, that's where we get our official numbers for the Youngstown area. 69.5 inches worth of snow, counting the 1.7 that was measured there since midnight last night. Now, I'm a little skeptical of that. It might be okay. Derek Steyer mentioned he had 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches at his place in Cortland. So 1.7 in Vienna may be, a reasonable tally measurement. But it brings us up to 69.5 for the season. Probably this is the last accumulating snow of the season. 61 is the average through April 7th. Now, through this date last year, we had 37.5, but we actually had some snow on the 8th, 9th, 10th of the month last April. So the final number was not 37.5 last year. That was just the number through the 7th day of April. So that's how things have stacked up, quite a bit snowier than last year. But you look at this map and it's really something. Cleveland is 29 inches short of average in terms of snow. Let me move myself again. Pittsburgh is 9 inches below average. Columbus 17. Buffalo 17 inches below average. And here in Youngstown, a surplus, 8.5 inches. So, we kind of stick out like a sore thumb when we look at the snow compared to averages for this winter. And when we compare the last 20 years, when we look at this, it's interesting. A lot of people say, I remember back in the 70s, it snowed a lot more, and even into the 80s, and the stats locally just don't bear that out. If you look at this, it's, I believe, 12 of the last 15 winters have been snowier than average, including that whopper we had back in 2010, 2011. We, of course, had 3 snowy winters in a row, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15. Then last year was definitely not very snowy. This year will go into the record books as snowier than average. So, kind of putting a bow on the snow season. I think we are done with it now at this point. Still blustery this evening when I recorded this at 5 till 8, gusting to 24 at the Youngstown Warren Airport. All right. Everybody's yard is kind of soaked right now. It's muddy. But if your yard dries out, if you get some nice sunshine this weekend, if you don't have a lot of trees blocking the sun, it'll be a good weekend to take care of whatever you want to take care of outdoors, get that spring cleanup done. I know in parts of my yard, it definitely needs to be mowed. Some other places aren't growing as well. But if you're going to mow this weekend, probably wait till Sunday to let it dry out. But either day is going to be beautiful to do anything outdoors. The sun will be shining. Just keep in mind, though, when we're talking about the outdoors, it's still pretty early in the season when we talk about hard freezes, and that threat will still be there, even though it looks like a pretty warm pattern settling in. The 30-year average date of the last hard freeze is not until the last few days of April, 28th of April. And, last year it was on the 14th. back in 2013, we had our last hard freeze, and I define that as temperatures under 30, on May 14th and May 10th back in 2010. So even in a warm spring, you can have a late hard freeze that could, cause some issues if you planted a little bit too soon. All right, let me switch over here. We're going to talk a little bit about the longer range. This is Easter weekend, and it looks pretty warm. Brief cool down at the end of next week, but it's nothing like today. I mean, we're talking a cool down into the middle and upper 50s for a couple days, end of next week, and that's pretty close to average, or even a little above average. As we head towards Easter weekend, I think it's going to start to warm back up. Now, it's too early to talk about rain or not, but the signal is definitely a nice one for warmth right around Easter. And last night's European extended forecast, European model extended forecast for the next month, paints a pretty warm picture here locally. I think April's going to go into the record books as a warmer than average month. It's interesting the signal being shown on the European modeling now as far as precipitation goes. Now that we've gotten through this wet period we've been in, looking forward to the next 30 days, actually kind of a dry signal showing up here. So confidence a little lower on this than it is on the temperature side of things, but this is an interesting signal anyway. We'll see if this trend continues with subsequent runs of the European modeling, which comes out twice a week for the longer range outlook. So that's the way it looks right now. I thank you as always for tuning into Weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you back here on Monday. Andrew's off this weekend, so I'm going to be filling in for Andrew DePaulo Sunday morning, bright and early on WFMJ Weekend today. Enjoy a nice sunshiny weekend. And again, more Weather Geeks coming your way Monday evening. I'll see you then.